Welcome to Soldier TV. In today's video we're going to talk about Chapter 18, The Mines of Mandalore. So the scene starts off, we've got two land speeders chasing each other all the way through Tatooine. There's fireworks going off. One then crashes into an object, which then allows the other person to pass. Then you have a Rodian who's just talking to Pally, who's looking at his land speeder that's crashed. And you can see, the left-hand side of it that, there's an engine or there's a pod missing. Pally's saying, look, it's Boonta's Eve. Now, what Boonta's Eve is from episode 1, The Phantom Menace, when Anakin turns around and wins his freedom because it's the Boonta's Eve race. Basically, it's just down to a celebration of one of the Hutts, I believe, and who became a godlike of sorts. She's saying, look, I've got to work this through Boonta's Eve, so it's going to cost you an arm and leg, so to speak. But however, if you pay half now, then I can get it fixed for you. Pally then turns around and says, right, bring the parts in. So it kind of looks like that she stripped the parts, hid them away, and then charged him to put them back on, thinking that they're new parts. And we see Mando coming in his N1 starfighter, and then comes to land. As Pally looks up, you can see that she's got a tooth missing. That tooth was missing from Boba Fett season in the final, when she ends up spitting a tooth out. She walks over to Mando's ship and says, where's the little guy? Obviously, Grogu then pops his head up, sees Pally, and you see him do his leap. We then see Mando, who turns around and says, look, I'm here on business. And she just drops it, over the Hutt's back. You're going to be taking out Boba Fett, which obviously he's not. He's after an IG memory unit. Then Pally goes over and said, what about R5-D4? He's a good astromech. And Mando said, I don't need an astromech. I need to go splunking. Splunking is basically, them checking underground tunnels and having someone go ahead of them and, check what's ahead of them, obviously for safety, etc. R5-D4 is a bit reluctant. You see him move back. And Pally's just saying, look, he's built for adventure. But as you know, we saw R5-D4 from episode 4, A New Hope, when Owen and Luke go to buy him, and obviously, he then gets exchanged for R2. Mando mentions, he doesn't have any room, R5-D4, and Pally says, don't be silly, I'll reinstall your droid port, and I'll only charge you half for it. See R5-D4 into the N1, and, Mando then takes off. As he's taking off, you see a load of fireworks. Again, that's from the celebration that is going on around him. Mandalorian cutscene, and then the chapter title that comes up, The Mines of Mandalore. We then see Mando flying towards a planet that's looking all green. And at this point, I'm saying, I'm hoping that this is Mandalore, and sure enough, it is. Mando and Grogu are looking down, and he says, it's once green and beautiful back when the songs were written, stating back that it was his home world of his people, even though Mando has never actually been to that planet, because he grew up on a planet called Concordia, which Mando, then points out to Grogu and says, this is where I was raised. After pointing to his home world, he then points to the star chart in his cockpit and says, this is Carcavia, is where we was when with Bo-Katan, and also says, that it's in the same system. So, which is good, because it kind of clears up the distance between the planets of Mandalore, Concordia, and currently where Bo-Katan is. From there then he lands, and this is the whole point, he's brought R5-D4, who reluctantly doesn't want to go. However, Mando drops him down, and then off he goes. As he starts moving away, Grogu is a bit concerned for his safety. We now see a character within inside of this astromech R5. As R5 moves away, Grogu again looks concerned, so Mando points onto his dashboard cockpit and says, look, we can track him from here. And then lo and behold, he just disappears. We see Mando enter the cave, and then he gets attacked. The creatures that Mando gets attacked are called Alamites. These are creatures that basically have lived on this planet. You can see one of his weapons have got like the green crystals on, so they've adapted themselves to the environment as well. Mando being Mando, starts to take care of him. He gets kind of a bit of a beating from him as well, and then he pulls out the Darksaber. As we can see with the Darksaber, straight away it drops to the ground. We can see that it's still heavy. He still hasn't connected with it. It's also good to see that the blade slicing him. Mando and Grogu make their way back to the cave, and he walks all the way down where he then, they start looking at the city, where he'd mentioned earlier that it was green and beautiful. So they both jump over the edge. Mando and Grogu then lower themselves all the way down to the bottom of the cavern. As they make their way through the cavern, there's a lot of green reflection, which goes really good, because obviously they must have used the volume in some sort, so the good way they've done the lighting with that flows really well. As they're walking through the cavern, Mandalorian comes across some Mandalorian helmets. As he picks it up, a creature comes and springs him in a trap, and then takes him to his lair. Grogu follows in the backdrop, staying out of harm's way. You see a hatch open, and as the hatch opens, this creature comes out. It's all got spiry legs, looking like a spider. And then as it lands on the ground, it then stands up and starts walking around like a human. To me, it looks like a Magna Guard with his Electro staff. Grogu then jumps forward to try and rescue Mando, and tries to use the Force to unlock this metal container, which he doesn't actually achieve. But in fact, it startles this creature. Mando shouts out to Grogu, "Go get Bo-Katan." Grogu then does another leap into his little cockpit and then races through back to the ship. On his way back to the ship, there's a creature that tries to jump out, and Grogu kind of side swerves this creature. And then Grogu then gets to the front of the cave. Now, this is the bit that we saw in the trailer, where Grogu then throws, which we know as an Alamite creature away, basically get out of the way, and then does another leap into the cockpit. As he leaps in the cockpit and the door shut, the cockpit glass shuts, this is where this other creature that he sideswept earlier tries to get into the M1 starfighter. Grogu points onto the star chart where he wants R5 to take him, which is obviously to Bo-Katan. So Bo-Katan's droid turns around and says, we have an unexpected visitor, and then Bo-Katan walks over to the window. This is another shot we saw from the trailer, where Bo-Katan looks across, and then you see the M1 starfighter go past on the reflection of the window. Bo-Katan kind of annoyed now. She'd go, right, let's get rid of him once and for all. Whatever that meant. Does she want to fight him? Does she want him out of his life? Does she want to kill him? Bo-Katan turns around and says, where is he? From there, then she turns around and says to her droid, right, download R5 to find out where they've come from. You then see the Gauntlet, which is Bo-Katan's starfighter, which is also seen in the Clone Wars. As we're flying through, Bo-Katan turns around to Grogu and says, it didn't always look like this. Stating of how, reinforcing basically what Mando had said of how it was a nice, beautiful green planet. And then they land. We then see Grogu and Bo-Katan start to go through the same process, the same tunnels that Grogu and Mando went through themselves. We then see the creature sticking a needle to pump out Mando's blood, and we see a creature starting to pump his blood out. Then a couple of blasts ring out, shoot the pump, and then starts to attack this creature. Now the creature disarms Bo-Katan with the Electro staff. Bo-Katan sees the Darksaber. Using her grappling hook, she grabs hold of the Darksaber and then starts to wield the Darksaber. Now, like from the Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars, she, with this Darksaber, she feels that it's connected to her. And, she's wielding it back like normal. It's not heavy, it's not cumbersome. And she takes care of the creature and then kills him off by beheading him. You see him walking down to the living waters, where Bo-Katan's saying, that it's been here for thousands of years. And, that she also went through this ritual of the creed of it. She then starts talking about her father. He died defending Mandalore, which Mando then stops and turns around and said, this is the way. Grogu and Bo-Katan have a look at each other, and Bo-Katan turns around and says, what are you looking at? And then we see him move down to the water's edge. She walks over to a plaque, and as you can have a read on screen of basically what it says. And basically what it's saying is that their signet was a symbol of their planet, because of Mandalore the Great was said to have tamed this mythical beast. Mando then starts to walk into the water, reciting some of the creed, but he doesn't get a chance to finish it. Either falls in the water because it's deep or gets sucked in. We don't know at this moment. And then disappears. Straight away, Bo-Katan sticks her helmet on and dives into the water. Now we can see her move through the water with her jetpack, and she sees, and Bo-Katan then starts to move through the water. She actually turns the light off so she can find Mando, which she does. From there, she struggles to pick him up, but does, and then as she picks him up, she starts to then fire her jetpack through the water. This is when we see it, the mythosaur. Can't believe that we saw it. When I saw it, I was like, what on earth? And, I had a big, such a smile on my face that the fact that we can see this, because before it was just a mythical creature. We'd only seen it on the signet of their brand, on their armor, and the fact that we're seeing this now. She grasps for air, which, you see the bubbles come out from underneath her helmet, that she's even shocked at seeing it, because at some point, she'd done the creed, but she didn't really care about it or have any belief in it. And the fact that she's now seeing this creature, in my eyes, states that everything that has been said, which she thought it was just false information, was actually true. So I guess this is where we're going to see later down the line, where this leads. What does it mean? Does it now render the Darksaber non-existent, because now this beast is actually real? Is there a chance that if someone can tame this beast, if it comes out out the water, does it only live in water now, or can it live out in the oxygen, in the air? And if someone can tame it, do they then become the ruler? And you won't need the Darksaber. Obviously, they would have the Darksaber as well, but that's what is that where it's leading to? Maybe the armorer. Did the armorer know that was there? Because Mando turned around and said, if I can prove that I had been there to redeem myself. Was Mando awake? Was he unconscious? So did he see it, or was it just Bo-Katan that saw this creature? We don't know. But as I said, with the armorer, did she know that he was there, and thinking that if Mando jumps in the water, that this Mythosaurus was going to eat him as a sacrifice, so to speak? Who knows? Maybe two Mandalorians had to help one another, because basically Bo-Katan believes of one thing, Mando believes of another, and because they're helping each other, that the Mythosaurus then decided to show himself. Who knows? I so can't wait to this next episode. Anyway, that's it for today. I just want to say thank you to Dan Stewart for helping me with some advice and guidance on what his takes was up on that episode. So thanks, Dan. Feel free to subscribe and like. Drop me some comments below. Anything I got wrong, feel free to jump on board and say that was actually wrong. But apart from that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.